This morning what I want to do is provide an overview of food demand and the part that intensification of agriculture and fertilisers in particular have to play in that, and why Fertcare exists. I want to provide a bit of an overview of the Fertcare program, and thirdly I want to help you understand why you as an agronomist should consider becoming a Fertcare Accredited Advisor. So the Food and Agriculture Organisation of the United Nations has estimated that the world population is anticipated to reach 9.1 billion people by 2050, requiring an overall food production increase of about 70% between 2005 and 2050. So while this increase can be achieved through higher crop yields, increasing the area farmed, increasing the number of crops per year, or a combination of these, it's suggested that enhancing agricultural productivity will have a key role in providing food in the future, and that intensification through technologies such as targeted fertiliser use will not only limit future land use change and conserve natural habitat, but will also limit the amount of greenhouse gas emissions generated per tonne of agricultural product. As you all know, fertilisers have risks associated with them, and they need to be managed. There are plenty of examples of nutrients entering waterways and causing algal blooms or other undesirable reactions. And community groups and catchment management authorities have focused on regions like the Peel Estuary and the Swan River in Western Australia. The other side of the country, in the Great Barrier Reef on the Queensland coast, has been another focus area. Gippsland Lakes in Victoria, the Murray-Darling River system is another. In all these examples, fertilisers are one of a number of factors contributing to eutrophication. We've also seen community concerns about food safety type matters, and heavy metal concentrations in particular have raised their head from time to time in the food chain. And farmers and governments have raised concerns about variability in soil test results, and at times have questioned the basis of advisor recommendations, and issues of confidence have come up from time to time. So how has the industry addressed environment, food safety and farmer confidence? The way it's been approached is by accepting some of the blame, earning some credibility and respect by getting involved in the development of good public policy, and making a significant and tangible difference through Fertcare. So to sum up Fertcare in a few words, it's about productivity and environment. It's about promoting productivity while protecting the environment. And the fertiliser industry has taken a responsible approach to managing the risks associated with fertiliser use. And the industry's made a strong commitment to productivity and environment through the Fertcare program. So Fertcare is a training and accreditation program which is delivered by independent third parties on behalf of the fertiliser industry. The program is designed to lift the skills and the knowledge of people operating in the supply chain. Fertcare focuses on providing quality advice to the users of fertiliser, as the greatest environmental risk occurs at the end of use, or the end point of use. So this advice assists users to not only optimise productivity but also minimise environmental risks. So the approach that Fertcare endorses is to use objective measures such as soil or plant tissue testing, appropriate analysis and interpretation methods to arrive at evidence-based, site-specific nutrient management plans at a paddock level. So the basic premise being to match the crop nutrient demand with the available nutrients in the soil, applied fertiliser and any other nutrient sources, for example animal manures, for example. So minimising the nutrient surplus to the crop requirements will reduce the risk of off-site nutrient impacts. So I guess there are three main components to the Fertcare program. There's the Fertcare training, the Accredited Advisor component, and AccuSpread. I'm going to focus on the first two today. So the Fertcare program trains people in the competencies required to meet their responsibilities for environment and food safety risk management. It includes the competency to warn and to advise or refer customers to information about the risks and how to manage them. So Fertcare was developed by professional educators. It was overseen by a technical committee that included leading public and private sector experts in plant nutrition, food safety and environment. The program continues to be updated with the latest information on practices and guidelines as new science comes to hand. So as you might be aware, the Fertcare program recently attracted just under 1.5 million from the Commonwealth of Australia and the Victorian governments to enhance the Fertcare resources, particularly in the area of greenhouse gas management. So training is administered through a registered training organisation, through a network of trainers. The Fertcare training is mapped to units of competencies and can contribute towards a qualification. So you might ask, well, why does Fertcare bother with all this RTO and national competencies issues? And I guess the reason is to ensure that the training is seen as responsible and credible in the eyes of the public, government, and people that have a strong interest in natural resource management. So currently there are over 2,600 people which have gone through the Fertcare training to this point in time. So the next major component is the Fertcare Accredited Advisor, and the aim of this component is to provide farmers and other food and fibre production supply chain stakeholders with confidence that farmers are receiving fertiliser advice based on soil and plant tissue testing of a high standard, and that the process of making the recommendations, the underlying supporting data, the sampling methodology and the laboratory competence are based on good practices and sound science in Australia. So the advisor program assesses the competence of advisors to make nutrient recommendations. The assessment is based on standards which are set by ASPAC, and they've been mapped to national competencies. The standards cover sampling, analysis, interpretation, recommendations and monitoring. The recommendations are tested for completeness and appropriate management of environment and food safety risks. So once advisors have been assessed as competent, they are encouraged to use the Accredited Advisor logo on their recommendations and other personal communication. They're also subject to a biennial audit every 2 years to make sure that routine competence is being applied and it provides a mechanism for improvement and rectify any underperformance. So currently there's about 360 Fertcare accredited advisors in Australia, operating across Australia, and they're listed on the Fertcare website. As you know, there's no legal or registration barrier to becoming or providing advice to farmers, and as a result there are times when the quality of advice to farmers varies widely, and it may not adequately address issues such as crop yield, profitability, nutrient use efficiency, environment or food safety matters. So prior to the Accredited Advisor program, farmers could only find out if an advisor provided comprehensive science advice to a high standard, either by experience or by word of mouth. So why should an agronomist consider becoming a Fertcare accredited advisor? I guess the first point is that it's a symbol of high quality, independently audited advice based on sound practices and accepted science. It's, as it were, a minimum standard for advice. The process of accreditation invariably leads to improvements in the quality and or consistency of advice. And thirdly, I guess the nutrient management, along with off-site impacts such as eutrophication, feature amongst the issues that are of high priority to the community and consumers and marketers of branded food and fibre products. Assurance on these issues is increasingly being sought through the supply chain, and in seeking this assurance, not only are the practices employed by farmers to produce the food being scrutinised, but also the quality and the source of the professional advice farmers are receiving is being questioned by natural resource managers and some branded food processing manufacturers. So the Fertcare Accredited Advisor program is well positioned to address these matters. I just want to briefly touch on a situation where the accredited advisor is well regarded. There's two. One is the Western Australian situation and the other one is the World Heritage listed Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority. We'll just talk about Western Australia. So in 2006, the Western Australian Environment Minister announced a phase-out of highly water-soluble phosphate fertilisers on the Swan and Scott River coastal plains by 2010 due to declining water quality and the increasing frequency of algal blooms in the catchment, like the Peel Harvey, the Swan Canning, the Vassy, etc. The movement of nutrients across were one of a number of factors which contributed to poor water quality in the region. At the time, the fertiliser industry argued the case for objective measures such as soil or plant tissue testing, appropriate analysis and interpretation methods to arrive at evidence-based, site-specific nutrient management plans at a paddock level to help reduce off-site nutrient losses. The basic premise is to reduce the nutrient surplus and minimise the potential for nutrient movement. So Fertcare provides substance to this approach and was accepted by the state government as one of a number of strategies to reduce agricultural nutrient losses. The ban on highly soluble water phosphates fertilisers was subsequently avoided. So nutrient management continues to be a focus for the Department of Agriculture and Food as part of its whole farm nutrient management activities. So the department is partnering with the Fertcare Accredited Advisor to provide fertiliser advice based on nutrient maps developed from soil tests and critical values. And the aim is to increase the use of evidence-based fertiliser decisions by producers rather than traditional fertiliser practices. So just to cut to the chase, the Fertcare Accredited Advisor program is open to anyone who meets the requirements of the program, including advisors working in the fertiliser supply chain, government and independent agronomists providing detailed nutrient management plans and fertiliser advice to farmers. Fertcare is respected and highly credible in the eyes of government, the natural resource managers, farming organisations and members of the fertiliser industry. So I'd encourage you to proudly wear the Fertcare Accredited Advisor logo, tell your farmers what it means. We have brochures like these to help tell the story. And I guess the key point is that Fertcare is about promoting productivity while protecting the environment. The Accredited Advisor program is an objective based to assess the competence of advisors, providing soil management, crop nutrition and fertiliser recommendations. It's a symbol of high quality advice. And I guess lastly, I'd encourage you to make a difference with the farmers that you're working with, be the best you can and be recognised for it. The Fertcare Accredited Advisor program assesses the competence of advisors to do that, so to make sure that they have the knowledge and skills, not only to assess a situation and optimise productivity for that situation, but also to minimise the risks. The advice that's given takes into account the risks of nutrient movement, food safety, etc. The accredited advisor component is an ongoing commitment. There's an assessment every 2 years. It's either can be done on a systems basis, such as a systems basis is something like New Logic, a Summit, etc., or on an individual basis. So every 2 years there is an assessment process. The Fertcare training, which is different, is separate, is just a once-off, but the accredited advisor component, there's an ongoing requirement for assessment. And yes, if you shift if you move between employers, if you were as part of an assessed system and you go to another employer who has an assessed system, you can retain your status as a Fertcare Accredited Advisor. If you go to an employer that doesn't have an assessed system available, you can choose to be assessed through an individual process and retain your Accredited Advisor status as well.